Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with a review of the mighty 4TP light tank, the Tier 1 Polish tank. I'm probably the only person that's ever done a review on a Tier 1 tank. But we're going to start at Tier 1 with the Poles, and I'm going to move through every single tank, and we will do a review of every tank. But we will not spend too much time on the Tier 1 because it's silly. It's a silly, silly Tier 1 tank. Here it is. Actually, it's not as silly looking as most of them. Basically, if you look up here, it went through trials, but it eventually did not see mass production. So interestingly, the Tier 1 tank is a tank that did not see mass production, which is kind of unusual actually for a lot of the Tier 1 tanks. But here it is. It's about as big as the rest of the Tier 1s. Look at this thing. What is this? Swedish? Holy cow, that thing's bizarre. And the T1 Cunningham, which is kind of the standard American. Yes, I have camo on my T1 Cunningham because it was used in tournaments for a long time. Back to the 4TP though, not much to say about it. I played one game. I got through the entire upgrade in one game. I will show you that game when we get there, but it is completely upgraded, and really all it needed to upgrade anyway was a gun. And I actually used the stock gun with the autocannon on there instead of the 47 mighty millimeter cannon right there, which is a 55 average damage and 45 pen with 70 for gold. 30 pen on the autocannon was plenty to get you through this. You should not really spend more than a game or three at Tier 1 getting past it, and I would recommend you don't stay down there if you're attempting to learn the game because it's a silly, silly place. But it can be fun, especially if you're a new player, so feel free to do that and make some credits and whatnot as you do that. You'll see that I did not put a single piece of equipment on my 4TP, nor did I use any kind of consumables on my 4TP. I simply put some ammo in it and drove out to battle, and that was all that was needed. You could do that. If you did that, I would recommend putting the standard small kit, small first aid kit, and maybe a fire extinguisher or food if you're crazy, but I probably would not waste food on a Tier 1 tank at 20,000 credits a whack. That's probably not your best bet, nor would I put too much gold on it, if any at all. Just go out there, drive it around a little bit, have a laugh, and move on to Tier 2. As far as the research and tech tree goes, actually let's back up here to the tech tree for the Polish. The thing about this tank is it's got 2 crew, and you immediately at Tier 2 go to 4 crew. And as you are only going to play 1 to 3 battles anyway before you buy yourself a Tier 2, I would not bother to move the crew. You will get a free crew with it because there's that tank in everyone's account as of 1.1 coming out, which was this morning. Just leave that crew down there, and if you really want to train them, rage around at Tier 1, get them a little better, but realize that you're going to have a strange crew because the commander is also a gunner and a radio operator or some such. So you get a bit of a weird split out, and you can really mess up your crew skills if you give a guy that is eventually going to be just a commander skills from several different kinds of crew positions. There you have it. Be careful with that. I would not bother with the crew. You can see that all you needed was 1 upgrade, and then you're on to the 7TP. That is all there is to say about this tank, to be quite honest. There's nothing else other than to look at a comparison. Let's look at a comparison of 4 different tanks. I could have picked more, but these are 4 of the Tier 1s. I've got the T1 Cunningham, which is the class, the standard, or the class standard, really. I have a Fiat 3000, which is, I don't know where from. I believe Mexico. Is it no, Italy. It's from Italy, not Mexico, you bozo. And then a Swedish Sturv FM21. Look at the firepower on these bad boys. 17, the 4TP wins in the firepower department. It has a 55 pen. That's the best out of these 4 with 45, damage. We get that straight, with a 45 pen, so it's top of the class. Top of the class. 11.54. You'll notice the Sturv and the Fiat and the T1 all fire very quickly. In the case of the T1 and the Sturv, it is either a machine gun or some kind of autocannon. As you can see that the reload time and the intra-clip shots are listed there as well. Gun depression on all these is pretty good. Where these things are pretty funny is on aiming time, which is relatively high, and then look at those dispersions. They're terrible, very inaccurate guns down at this tier. So you'll notice when I show you the battle that I had that shots are going pretty much every which way. Add that to the fact that you're probably running an 80% crew to start with on this thing. That's not true. It will be 100% crew at least when you start with this, because that's what it comes with. But later on in the tier 2s and 3s, you may be running newer crews unless you're dropping gold on them, and it gets pretty comical the number of directions your shots go. DPM, it's right in there. The T1, like I said, is the standard of the class. It's the best. Survivability is a 2. The T1 is a 1. Armor doesn't really matter down here. There's only a couple tanks where there really is any armor whatsoever or to speak of. You'll notice that with a pen of 45, and you look at the armor down here on the hull and the turret of the things that you are facing, and they're all relatively the same. You're not going to worry about penning. You are going to pen unless you hit some kind of weird angle in there. They're not super fast, but they're not bad at 35. He's actually fairly quick. You'll notice that in my replay. It is a fairly fast tier 1, and at least it has that going for it. At least you're not barely moving around on the tier 1 battlefield in something like a Fiat 3000 with a 21km/h speed. Yikes. Terrible. You know why he has that? Because he's got 16 millimeters of armor balanced for the tank. Concealment, okay, it's the best, the 4 TP of these 4. I don't know. Bush sniping is sort of a thing at tier 1 at times, but I don't even know what to say there. The view range, 280, 290. They're all going to be short view ranges until you get to about tier 5, 6, or 7. The spotting or view range will go up, and eventually it gets saturated around tier 8, where most things are very close to maximum view range. And that is it for the comparison. What is it basically? It's a tier 1 tank, so enjoy. Let's move on from here to how I did. This is always a good part. I always did this. I always do this with the tanks. I'm at 100%. I have never lost in this tank. 884 average experience per battle. 3.36 damage ratio, a destruction ratio of 4. Every battle I have fought in this tank, I've killed 4 tanks. That's pretty amazing. I've only fought 1 battle, of course. 370 damage. Damage received, 110. Let's go to the example of gameplay of the mighty 4TP. Hey, yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk, and I am going to do a review of the monster 4TP Tier 1 Polish tank. You heard that right. A review of a Tier 1 tank. You can see that I have unlocked it right here. I'm just kidding. I didn't unlock it. It came free. The Polish tanks are out, and this is the first one you will drive. Who am I kidding? Most of you are going to free XP past this thing, but somebody asked me to do the low tier tanks, and you know what? I'm going to do every single one of them. Now, I'm not going to get as in-depth on the tier 1s. We've got a game right here. It is the one game I played. I unlocked everything on this tank in one game with a win. But let's talk a little bit about tier 1 tanking, and in particular about the, what is this thing? The 4TP. Look how cute that little guy is, little tankette. Is this actually a tankette, or is it actually a tank? I don't know. But we are here on Abbey, which is now hard to find. Look how little the letter is up there, or the word is. I don't like that. Abbey's way up there, and it's not big anymore. I don't like that. All right. North spawn. I shoot the gun because it's got the little autoloader, and I'm kind of curious what happens, and that's what happens. It shoots a bunch of stuff. I am not carrying any gold. I don't have any equipment. I don't even have repair kits on this thing. This is a purely stock Tier 1 tank. In fact, is there an upgrade on this? We'll have to look at it. I probably already talked about it. I'm doing this a little backwards because, hey, it's a Tier 1 tank. I might as well do the gameplay first and then go back and find the details. But like any Tier 1 battle, and it is all Tier 1, you can pretty much press W, go find the bad guys, and shoot them. And if you're not a complete Muppet, you'll probably do okay. So I am driving down the 8-9 line. Could have gone into the middle, but good old Ebby 40 died doing that, so I'm glad I went over here. And I figure based on my speed, everything else is roughly the same speed, because basically everything else is a 40 TP minus a few of them, and I should find them right about here if they pressed W and came. And there they are. They pressed W, and I just hold down the left mouse button until that guy blows up, and then I back up, and my buddy charges in, all something and no forehead, and he dies. And now I'm reloaded, and I will just press the left mouse button and point my gun at him, and I get an ammo rack. Boom, he explodes. Ooh, even the turret came. Did the turret come off? I think the turret even came off of that thing. And now we are pressing W again. The point of all that is, I'm being a little facetious and comical about it, is that if you're careful at tier 1 when you push, and you don't simply walk completely into them, then you can actually no respect quite a few of these tanks. But if you end up facing 2, and we're going to find out, we'll find this out later on, if you end up facing 2 who are focusing you, you will not last very long at tier 1. So the trick is, pick your enemy, machine gun them down, and avoid exposing yourself to too many of them. And you'll notice back there how I was sort of against the side of the wall and trying to minimize the amount that they could see me. This guy's way over there. I'm just going to hold down the gun and see if one of them hits. Guess what? It did. Prometheus and the Fiat 3000. His problem was he did not bring a 4 TP. Now we've got this big guy. He's got quite a big gun on him, actually, the medium too. And I just kind of point at him and click until he dies. But you'll notice I wasn't stupid. I didn't drive straight up on there. I went ahead and just exposed my turret. I just shoot him on the way. I know I'm going to reload in time. I used the rock there to cover up. Again, I don't want that guy to have free shots on me, and I was reloading. And now myself and this other 4 TP are going to do the old pince move. Things are going well. We're winning pretty handily. He's looking the other way. I'll just drive in here, and he dies to my friend. I hit C. For you new players, if you hit C, that will force a reload on your auto loader, but it will not lose the ammo in it. A lot of people think that you have to clear out the clip by continuing to fire until all the bullets are gone. But no, if you hit C, you will keep the ammo, and that works very nicely. You can see that it's got a decent speed. Most of the tanks down at this tier are relatively slow, but this one's actually not too bad. Pretty zippy. What we got for pen? This thing's got about a penetration of 30, which is going to handle most armor down here, minus a few. You can carry gold, but that's kind of ridiculous. But, you know, if you're a committed Steel Clubber, that may be an option. I know I've got a couple guys coming, and I talked about not exposing yourself to multiple enemies. So let me show you what happens when you expose yourself to multiple enemies. I'm just basically on cleanup mode thinking I can walk over everything. But unfortunately, I get a piece of that guy, but not enough, and his buddy guns me down. So it took 2 of them, but because I exposed myself to both of them, I end up dying. I left that guy on 5 hit points right there. So at the lower tiers, 1, 2, 3, just for you newer players, remember, don't get focused by 2 tanks. That's never good at any tier, but especially on the tier 1 battles down here at the very bottom of the game, or the beginning of the game, if you will. Let's not call it the bottom, but call it the beginning. You can be stripped of all your hit points very quickly by 2 enemy tanks, especially with the auto loader or the auto cannon or the machine gun, whatever version of gun this thing is down here. Basically auto loader kind of idea. And there you have it, the 4 TP, pressing W, pointing at enemies and destroying them and continuing to move. It does seem a little bit brainless. There is a little bit of method to the madness in there. Again, I had a bunch of friends with me. I don't know if you noticed that. I would have not been nearly as aggressive if I hadn't had 3 or 4 of them following me. Because if I ran into 3 or 4 of the enemy, then they would have just run me over like we ran them over as singletons. So that's probably the biggest key right there early on. And that will serve you in good stead when you start moving up into the 5 and 6 tier, tier 5, tier 6, tier 7, so that you're not simply driving out into the middle of everything and getting massacred. All right, that is it for the, what is this thing? A 4 TP, the mighty 4 TP Polish tier 1 tank.